Welcome to the Douglas Murray channel. Our discussion today highlights the interplay between freedom of speech, religion, and cultural sensitivities, with a focus on recent events that have sparked global debates. Keep watching, as this will be a juicy debate.
Well, time to bring the guests into the discussion. Here in the studio with me is Khaled El-Bey, a political cartoonist based in Doha. Joining us from Paris is Catherine Gilliardi, a French journalist and social commentator. And completing the panel in London is Douglas Murray, Associate Director at the Henry Jackson Society. Good to have you with us. If I could start with Khaled here in the studio. You're a cartoonist and a Muslim.
Yes.
Do the two mix?
They mix.
How?
There's a lot of us.
What do you paint cartoons of? Many outside the Muslim world are asking, can Muslims find a sense of humor?
We do. We of course we have to go through hoops to avoid censorship in so many levels. We go through censorship in so many levels. Social censorship because of the social religious factors in the region, and as well as government-imposed censorships that we also have to dodge every time, and of course self-censorship.
You support what Charlie Hebdo did? The characters.
I condemn what the attack that happened, and I condemn the extremists for this horrific attack. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of the publication. I never was. I thought it was quite racist, actually. And
why did you find it racist?
They're just feeding into the mainstream media prototypes of people, like profiles of ethnic groups, or they're not. It's not smart cartoons. Everybody can make a gag. Anybody can make a gag, but it's quite. What the smart thing to do is how to deliver that without offending anybody, and at the same time, even if you're offended.
Khaled El-Bey, a political cartoonist, discusses the complexities of being a Muslim cartoonist and condemns both the Charlie Hebdo attack and the publication's offensive content. How can cartoons balance humor and respect in sensitive contexts?
Anybody, what is your message? It's not just a joke for the sake of a joke.
Right. Okay, let's bring in our London guest into the discussion at this point. Do you think this attack will underscore the message of the far right in Europe, at least, of the incompatibility of Islam and the West, or Western values?
That's a pretty atrocious question, if I may say so. We're about 24 hours away from 12 people being gunned down in a newspaper office in the centre of Paris, in a European city, because they offended, allegedly, Islamic blasphemy laws which France, Britain and other European countries do not have and do not believe in and do not follow. And for you to turn the question immediately, not on the people who've been massacred because of asserting their rights as European French citizens, but onto the alleged terrible discrimination of the French, is really quite despicable.
So I didn't ask you anything about discrimination of the French. Let me repeat the question.
You went straight on to the alleged backlash.
Let me ask you the question again, in case you didn't understand it. Do you think this attack? We are in our news bulletins talking in more detail about the actual attack. What you were invited to discuss in this show are the implications of what might follow the attack. Will it underscore the message of those who say there is an incompatibility between Western values and Muslim values?
No, you want to paint the narrative which you think turns immediately, not from the attackers, but on the French society, which you would like to portray. I'm giving you my answer, so why don't you listen to it? Which you would like to portray as somehow anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic or anything like this. Let's start from the fact that 12 people were massacred because European citizens asserted their right, which they have every right to do, to draw Mohammed just as they have the right to draw any other historical figure, which they believe in or don't believe in. It doesn't matter. They have that right. I don't think at this stage whether, a discussion of the far right in France or anything like that is really the point. The point is people were killed and gunned down for doing their job as journalists and cartoonists in a free society.
OK, let's try with our guest join.
Douglas Murray reacts strongly to a question on far-right narratives post-attack, emphasizing the massacre of 12 people for exercising free speech. Should the discussion focus on the attack's implications or the rights of those targeted?
Make a middle line and walk together, basically, and instead of just pointing fingers. Mm-hmm. So, this is what I think should happen, and this is what I think should, we should all work towards.
All right, thank you very much, Douglas in London. No doubt there will be a lot of thought as to how policy should proceed going forward. What do you think the policy should be? What are the practical policy lessons learnt from this attack?
Well, there are no practical policy lessons learned. People are still mourning the dead and identifying bodies. The thing that is going to happen in the weeks and days ahead is that people are going to have a set of questions. The first will be obvious security questions, simply about how it was that two people were able to go into the office in Paris with Kalashnikovs and gun people down in cold blood. That will certainly be a part of it. There's a technical security discussion to be had. There's also a discussion about wider society and what its reaction should be and all that sort of thing. But really the most febrile and important discussion at the moment is the one that the free press is having across Europe, which is whether or not they will stand up and retain the right to do what we in Europe and free peoples have the right to do, which is to draw what we like. And the key message from this really can't be emphasized enough, because, your guest in Doha is a cartoonist. He knows very well that he can't draw a cartoon of Mohammed there. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't, because his life would be at great risk.
I wouldn't do that anyway, sir. No.
And one of the reasons, you wouldn't do it. Okay,
sir,
maybe it's not just because. Can I just finish my point?
Okay, finish your point, then we'll give Khalid a chance.
Murray stresses that the key issue is the free press's right to critique any religion without fear, pointing out the stark difference in freedoms between Western and Muslim-majority countries. Can the West maintain its values while respecting others?
Of any faith that we follow. People are Christians, atheists, all sorts of things. You cannot expect, and this is the crucial thing, Muslims should not expect non-Muslims to abide by their own belief systems. You can yourself decide, you as a Muslim do not want to depict Muhammad. But the idea that is coming along in Europe at the moment is a growing idea that people who are not Muslims, who do not believe in Muhammad, who do not follow Islam, are also to be have to obey the rules of Islamic blasphemy. And in Europe at the moment, that is the big debate.
You made that point, Douglas. You wanted to go ahead, Khalid. You had to come back on that. You were saying that you couldn't draw a cartoon on the Prophet Muhammad, even if
as I explained, I wouldn't draw a cartoon of Prophet Muhammad because of these issues, because this is how we grew up, because this is our culture. We do not do that. But in the argument about freedom of speech, I mean, yes, the West does have freedom of speech, and yes, you should fight to keep that freedom of speech. I accept that totally, and I believe in that, right? As a cartoonist and as a human being, and for me, as a cartoonist who does not have that freedom to that extent, right? But at the same time, if you have all these rights, if you have all this power, why would you want to use it to upset a whole population? Why would you want to do that?
Life is upsetting all the time.
We already live in a troubled world. We already live in a troubled world, sir. Right? We already
let's get beyond that platitude for a second and get on to the substance of it. Let's get on to the substance of it.
Douglas, don't interrupt him now. We gave you a chance. Douglas, just give him a chance to finish.
Every single cartoonist in Britain and in Europe is able to, and many of them do, make jokes around Christmas time and so on about the Virgin Mary, three wise men and so on. We accept that as the right. What Charlie Hebdo was...
Khalid and Murray debate the responsibility that comes with freedom of speech. Khalid questions why such freedoms should be used to offend, while Murray defends the right to critique all religions equally. How should societies balance free speech and cultural respect? Thank you for joining this vital conversation on freedom of speech and cultural respect. Leave your thoughts in the comments and remember to like and subscribe for more in-depth discussions.